Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days in 5 minutes. And we've got a special Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast tonight, as we will have Fox 5 News from New York City. Meteorologist Nick Gregory will be joining us. And that's tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Windy day across the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states. We've got wind advisories up from the Central Appalachians into Northern Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, much of eastern and central Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and on up into New England. We still have some residual winter storm warnings up for north central and northeastern New York, as well as some counties in Vermont with a few winter weather advisories on either side. Nothing much going on across the rest of the nation along the West Coast, and particularly the Pacific Northwest. We've got a storm system moving in. It's not a particularly strong one, but we do have winter weather advisories up for the Cascades and the Sierra Nevadas, and also for a few counties in northeastern Nevada and on up into Idaho. We don't have any major storms that are impacting the United States other than the system that is sitting off the coast of uh, well, it's not quite off the coast, but it is halfway between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. The gradient is very tight today. You see a lot of isobars between this low, which is down in the 970s, millibars to high pressure in Kentucky. So we're going to see gusts to 40 to 50 miles an hour, and in some cases even more, particularly from midday to late afternoon, early evening, when the strong March sun creates mixing in the atmosphere from the top down. So that's going to cause stronger wind gusts, especially in mountain areas in the Northeast and down into parts of Pennsylvania and through the central Appalachians. The winds are going to start to ease in the southern areas before too long. And I think we're going to see the winds begin to slowly ease tonight as this low moves away to the east. And meanwhile, you've got this high that is bringing up some warmer air through the southern and central plains, and that's going to be spreading into the Ohio Valley. And eventually, it gets into the eastern United States starting tomorrow. And you can see it was a weather system well off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, but you've got these fronts that are approaching, bringing in waves of precipitation. And as we check out the satellite loop this morning, the back edge of some cloud cover is starting to pull away slowly to the east. So the sunshine will be in there. There'll be certainly more sun than yesterday. And I really don't think we're going to have to be dealing too much with any kind of precipitation in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. Yesterday we had a lot of rain and snow shower activity, and even some snow squalls. The snows in upstate New York that are showing up on the radar as of 8:30 a.m. this morning are starting to diminish, but still some leftover snow going on in north central and northeastern New York, as well as in northern Vermont. And we're also seeing some precipitation further to the east out in Maine. In the west, it's kind of spotty in California, in Nevada and Idaho, Washington, and Oregon State. Again, nothing major here. And as far as precipitation is concerned over this coming week, we'll look at the next 3 days first from WPC. You'll notice there's no precip in the east other than what's left over today in upstate New York and in northern New England. We're seeing some moisture moving into the upper Mississippi Valley and into the lower Great Lakes on the order of a quarter to a half an inch. And this takes us, by the way, into early Thursday morning. Nothing in the southeast. Most of Florida is dry and only some light precip in the lower Mississippi Valley. It picks up in the Rockies and also in the Pacific Northwest. Now, if we go out to 7 days, this is where we see the couple of weather systems moving through the east. So we've got a quarter to a half inch of liquid being indicated from New England down into North Carolina. It really picks up, and this is going to be for late this week across the South, where we have an inch and a half to areas of 2.5 and 3 inches from Louisiana on eastward into central and southern Mississippi and through much of central and southern Alabama. The central and southern Rockies, 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half of liquid. The northern Rockies, a half to 3/4 to around an inch. Most of that is snow. And then on up into the Pacific Northwest, which is calmer than what we usually see over 7 day periods, but still every bit of three-quarters of an inch to areas of up to an inch and a half to 2 inches, which is not terrible. And as far as snow is concerned, what's left over from today is being indicated in northern Vermont and northernmost Maine with 50% probabilities for at least two. In the west, it's in the mountains, the Sierra Nevadas, the Cascades, the northern Rockies, and even the central Rockies where we have high probabilities for at least two. And when we switch it off to a probability for at least eight, we're seeing just few areas in blue here indicating 40 to 50% or higher probabilities for at least 8 inches. So weather systems are moving along. You can see all those isobars on the GFS this afternoon with that low sitting over Nova Scotia, just kind of rotating around and then finally moving on to the east. The gradient still stays fairly tight into tonight. Then it starts to slowly relax a bit. And the quote unquote cold air that we have, which is really not all that cold from the standpoint of temperatures, because we're going to be in the upper 40s and low 50s this afternoon. A west wind tomorrow is going to allow temperatures to start warming up rather quickly, and we could see some 60s tomorrow appear in many locations. Notice no precipitation at all. You see it out in the west with these weather systems coming in with mountain snows and some valley rains. As far as the next problem, well, that's going to come quote unquote quote problem because it's nothing major. We do have a system that's going to be coming out of the plains. In the meantime, depending on wind direction for Wednesday and Thursday, we certainly will see 60s, and we might even see some places get into the 70s as long as the wind direction behaves and doesn't become southerly. I don't think that's going to be the case so much on Wednesday. It might be more of an issue on Thursday, but inland areas will still get pretty warm. It'll be dry. This low goes up to the lower Great Lakes and moves across, brings some showers to the north on the Thursday in upstate New York and in northern Pennsylvania and into New England Thursday night and Friday morning. That low goes by with a weak weather front. There's a second wave behind it. Looks like most of the precip from that goes to the south, so southern New Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, and points southward. Might get into it a bit later Friday into Friday night, but as long as everything moves along, the weekend is looking pretty good. The South is going to be dealing with the possible severe weather risks beginning Thursday night in eastern Oklahoma into East Texas and into Arkansas, and then points further east later in the day on Friday. You can see some of that heavier rain that moves along in the southern part of the United States. No major storms are on the horizon. After whatever happens Friday, the next weather system looks like it might approach late Sunday or Sunday night, early Monday, depending on the speed of the next cold front. So don't forget, tonight, the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Fox 5 News from New York City, meteorologist Nick Gregory will be joining us. So be sure you join us tonight at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time.